Morning, Dr. Sean here, and I thought I'd go a little Facebook Live for us here. Just kind of rounding out things. My wife and I are on business this morning down in St. Louis, and she sent me this video a while back, and it was asking, says, hey, what do you think about this video that someone was putting out over Facebook? And it was all talking about protein myths, and it's something that I think it's overlooked a lot. And they were the doctors that were in the video. There were 4 or 5 of them, and they were adamant. Oh my gosh, you never have to eat meat again. You never need it. I'm sick and tired of hearing it, and so on. And they went through and they gave their opinions. And so I thought, this morning for fun, I was just going to kind of go through a little bit of this. And so I wrote them all down. You know me. I'm just going through these, and it was interesting. One of the things the guys say, protein's made by plants. They're right. Protein is made by plants, okay? And there's no even debating this. The algae, the things like that, fish, birds, animals, we all eat that. Certain animals convert it over. Certain animals don't. You don't see a lion eating a whole lot of grass all the time. It's just not how they're designed. They're designed to eat meat. They're a carnivore. They chase things. It doesn't mean that you have to eat meat. It just means that it's there. So one of the things I want to kind of go through here is saying, when we look at protein, protein is protein is protein. It doesn't matter what source it comes from, whether it comes from a plant, it comes from a bird, a fish, an animal of some sort. Protein's protein, and that is very true. Okay, it's all the same. The key to it is when you consume that protein, can your body digest it? And this is the difference here. So when we're looking at protein, we're saying, okay, when you eat an animal source of protein, it's a complete protein. And what that means is it's all of them. It's all the proteins, all the amino acids. They're all right there in one thing. When you go to plants, there are no plants that are complete protein sources. So you have to mix them a little bit. You got to borrow a little bit here, you got to grab here, and you have to start combining. Now, it's not that you can't do that. The Seventh-day Adventists have been doing it forever, right? It's something you can absolutely do. Morning, Joe. It's something you can absolutely do, right? You can combine these, but it's more work. It's a little trickier to do. And you got to be more in tune and alert to how you combine these proteins. And if you do that, they're there. Now, we go to saying, okay, well, now we've got the parts, but that doesn't mean you can build the car, right? Just because you've got the parts doesn't mean you know how to take the wrench to it and actually put things together. That's digestion. And digestion is grossly overlooked in the nutrition world. So I'm going through what these doctors were all saying in this video. And the one guy saying, you never need to eat another animal again. He's right. You don't have to. But if you choose to, it's a complete set of proteins. It's a complete set of aminos. There are no plants that are. So you're going to have to combine. So it's like, well, I can eat one thing that has everything that I need, or I can combine 3 or 4 to get the same stuff. That's okay if you know your knowledge well and you want to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But then again, we go back to, what if you don't digest it? What if you don't digest the protein well? What if you don't digest the plants well? Now you don't get that protein and the body starts to struggle. One of the gentlemen was talking about, veggies, and you can combine grains and all these things. You can. But guys, there are no, and I repeat, no essential carbohydrates. None. There's essential amino acids. There's essential fatty acids that you have to have, which means there's essential proteins, there's essential minerals, there's things we have to have there. There are no essential carbohydrates. So when you start looking at grains and things, what we know is that, well, excessive amounts of those in our diet have really fed the bear disease-wise in the last really 40 years. So one of the doctors was talking about, I've never seen a protein deficiency in my entire career. He's never seen one. So very nicely, I'm going to say, because you're poorly trained. They're all the time. They're everywhere. You just have to know what you're looking for. He doesn't know, and that's okay. You can't know everything, right? So let's go through protein. And what would be some of the hallmarks if you're deficient in protein? Guys, you're going to be too wet. That's a #1 sign of it. The body's going to be a little bit too wet. Protein helps you to hold water. So you look at eyes, mouth, Noses. If you're runny, drippy all the time, your eyes are always drippy, you're always spitting when you talk, and you're saliva constantly, you're protein deficient. You don't have enough. It doesn't mean you have to have a full-blown pathology. You don't need that. We're looking for early warning signs, symptoms of, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Edema. If you see swelling in your hands or your feet, guess what? You're protein deficient. The body can't hold its fluid. When do we see this? How about a woman during a menstrual cycle? She gets swollen. Well, let's look at that. What happens during her cycle, right? They lose blood. What's blood made out of? Protein and water. If you lose the protein, you can't hold the water. So when women are cycling, especially heavy cycles, they all of a sudden get edema. When you get that edema, when you lose that protein, you cramp. You start to ache and hurt. So if you have a female that's got swollen hands and feet, or a male, if you have someone that's got cramping at night, especially when you have nighttime cramps and things, protein helps the body to hold calcium. It holds that mineral. So if you're cramping at night, odds are really good you're deficient in the mineral. Well, if you're deficient in the mineral, now all of a sudden you're cramping up. Hey, morning, David. So you're cramping. So you start looking at this and start thinking, gosh, if I'm cramping at night, I'm protein deficient. That's what's going on there, right? Hot flashes. What are they, right? It's water running away from the body. What are you missing? The protein to hold the water, right? Bleeding gums. You're brushing your teeth and, oh, my toothbrush is a little pink. Okay? Same reason, because vitamin C and protein are married. They go together. You can't use one efficiently without the other. So these little things like this are critical for the body. They're super, super important. So when we start looking at proteins, what do? Growth. Repair. They're good for hair and skin and nails. They make hormones. Insulin is protein. Epinephrine is protein. Thyroxine for your thyroid. Cold hands and feet. Well, oh, it's a thyroid problem. It is, because you're lacking the thyroxine, which is made from protein. So for this doc that's saying, oh, I've never seen a protein problem ever in my life, they don't exist. You're poorly trained. You need to go back to school. Nice as I can say it. Learn a little bit of something about how these things work on a different level. And all of a sudden, I'll guarantee he'll see protein deficiencies walking through his door daily. They're all the time. They're constant. They're more pronounced in females than males all the time. Why? Because of how the digestive system works. So we go back to this idea that, can you get your complete proteins from plants? Yes, you can, but you've got to combine. Now, one of the doctors was sitting there saying, well, you know, the largest animals on the planet are herbivores and this and that. And that's true. So let's look at some of those. Let's look at a cow. Let's look at a rhinoceros and things like that. And look at how they chew. Look at the stomach they have. The cow's busted up into 4 parts, all for the purpose of digesting grasses and things like that. Humans, we don't have that. Our transit time is about 12 and a half hours. When you get into a cow, they can chew and re-chew and chew and re-chew for hours upon hours upon hours, mixing and mixing to digest even more and more and more. Guys, that's how this works. So can we do it? Yeah, we can, okay? Is it necessary for us? No. So if you like to eat meats and things like that, that's fine. If you don't want to, you can eat vegetables. You just have to make sure the body can digest it, and that's an enzyme function. Now, once you digest that food, you still got to absorb it. You got to somehow pull it in, and ironically, what transports nutrients to all your cells? Proteins. So if you don't digest a plant well, you're not going to use it. Now you got to waste. On the flip side, if you don't digest protein well, then that meat or that fish or chicken or whatever you're eating, it's going to get inside the body, not get digested, and it's going to rot. When it rots, it potentially can then cause disease states. One of the doctors got on here, the same one ironically with protein, got on here and said, hey, you know, our diabetes is directly linked to this. Our heart disease is directly linked to this. It's a bunch of BS. It's not directly linked to all the meat eaters. I have seen just as many sick vegetarians in my career as I have meat eaters. It's all about, can you digest the food? Can you absorb it? Can you remove the waste? If you want to look for the cause of diabetes, if you really want to know why we have now more today than we ever have, it is not from eating meat. We were a culture 100 years ago that was raised on butter and lard and all of these things. Today, we're raised on high fructose corn syrup and processed foods. And there's nothing that inflames that body more than those food sources do. We know for sure when you put in grains, potatoes, and starches and large amounts of sugars, it inflames the body, it kicks off an insulin response, and that eventually leads to hunger and fat storage, which then causes diabetes. That's what it's all about. Heart disease, the NHANES study, which is the largest study conducted so far on it, flat out proved that 42% of our current heart disease is directly linked to insulin resistance and blood sugar that's linked to carbohydrates in our diet. All right, that's it then. So it's not the fish, it's not the chicken, it's not the beef that you're eating that's causing your heart disease. It's too much sugar. It's too much inflammation. And when you get that, guys, that's how we get in trouble. So if you can alleviate this, clean your diet up, have a little of what you want here and there, you're going to be okay. So in response to this little video and going through it, they're not wrong, okay? These guys aren't wrong, but maybe their spin on things is a little, misconstrued, okay? You could eat meat. You can eat chicken. You can eat fish. You can do all those things and get your protein. You can eat vegetables and grains and cereals and get your protein. The key is, can you digest your food? Can you absorb it? If you can do those two things, it doesn't matter what your source is. You can do just great and be healthy. If you can't do either of those two things, then it doesn't matter how clean that diet is. You're still going to get in trouble. You're still going to get sick, and you're going to see those symptoms that I listed for you. The cold hands and feet, the moist hands and feet, the cramping at night, the achy after exertion, the bleeding gums, all those things that are hallmarks of protein deficiencies. Dr. Sean, hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you later. See ya.